Hello everyone, welcome back to Black Heaven, a necromantic dating sim. Let's go ahead and continue on with Rue. You feel cool air blowing across your face and smell the faint scent of formaldehyde. When you open your eyes, you find yourself standing in the Garden of Flesh, surrounded by flesh models. You hear a sharp laugh and turn around to find a group of 4 female Itsan students. As they pass by, you see that Rue is one of them. That's why I said yes, but that's not gonna happen again. That's good. He doesn't deserve a second chance. Not after that. Uh-huh. He's trash, even if he's rich. But anyway, Rue, you've been awfully quiet. Has anyone caught your eye? Me? Oh, no, not really. I don't blame you. A lot of the guys in our class are either jerks or kind of, well, I'll just say it, ugly. The girls burst into laughter and you watch Rue quietly laugh along. But seriously, Rue, what's your type? I know Yvonne likes the muscly ones. Josiah, shut up, not so loud. The group stops in front of a long bench and the lead girl sits down, followed by the other 2. Rue sits at the end and folds her hands in her lap. I don't know if I have a type. I guess it would be someone who's considerate, kind, empathetic. Rue trails off, leaving an awkward silence hanging in the air. You don't have to be so serious about it. I mean, yeah, they're all nice, but I'm talking about the guys here. As in, who do you want to go to the bar with and have, you know, fun? Right, fun. Wait, Rue, do you drink? Not really. I like hard cider. Oh jeez, how are we supposed to take her out on the weekends? I don't know, Taya. You drink enough for both you and her. But wait a second, if we're out studying to live forever, wouldn't you want to be with someone you want to spend? Rue gestures in the air, but the other girls only give her quizzical looks. Eternity with. Josiah erupts into laughter, followed by Yvonne and Thea. Wow, you really are just... I didn't mean to. Rue, we just got here. We're going to have plenty of time to figure out who to marry. But if we're going to be locked up on campus for the next 10 or 20 years, we might as well enjoy it. So lighten up a little. The group lapses into silence except for Yvonne and Thea, who are whispering to one another with palms cupped over their lips. Rue glances around, trying to ignore them, then stands up and begins to wander around the model behind them, looking over its preserved muscles. After a while, Josiah joins her. She looks at the body with her hands on her hips and her head cocked to the side. They exhibit these things like they're pieces of art. They're kinda grotesque. I mean, I can handle working with flesh and blood, but these are basically just corpses. Yeah, but they are kind of like sculptures. You can see where the creator altered the physiology, like the blood vessels. Josiah peers at the model, craning her neck forward. I guess. Can't wait until we get to perform self-surgery. Even if I had to cut myself open, it'll be a relief. Why's that? Josiah turns to look at Rue and raises her eyebrows. Because that's when you can point to something and say, see? I'm a scholar of immortality. But we already have our uniforms and things. Josiah waves away Rue's comment and shakes her head. No, I don't mean to each other, I mean... She sighs and crosses her arms, then turns back to stare at the model. When you go back home and you see your friends after years and years, and they got their own estates, their own servants, and their own little parties, they're going to turn to you and say, what have you been doing for the past few decades? Josiah gives Rue a sidelong glance and a wry smile. And you get to say, look, I got a new heart, it's going to be enough for another lifetime after you're dead. Or look, my teeth are made of pearl, and they'll never rot. When my parents said that they were sending me here, I thought they were punishing me. I wouldn't get to see my friends. I wouldn't be able to establish myself. I thought I was going to fall behind everyone else I knew. But now I understand. Everyone here is playing the long game. I mean, that's why you came here, right? Rue's hands fidget in front of her stomach. Well, not exactly. So let me guess. Your parents sent you here so you could learn to take care of them. I think my parents expect me to keep them alive for a few decades longer once I graduate. That's going to be a chore. I mean, probably, but I choose to come here. Why? Besides the obvious, I mean, nobody wants to die. I came here because my tutor told me that if you want to make your mark on the world, you can do it here. Josiah looks at Rue confusedly. I mean, through scholarship, you can discover things or study things that impact the entire course of human history. I didn't think I would make much of myself in high society or business, so I thought I'd do something worthwhile here. Rue gestures to the model looming over them. Maybe I'll discover a new way to mold flesh, or a new surgical technique. Josiah looks at Rue for a few seconds, then raises her eyebrows and shrugs. Ambitious. Josiah turns her gaze back to the model, and Rue stands with her in silence for a while. Peals of laughter ring out and echo throughout the room, and Yvonne and Thea walk around the side of the model, smiling. There's a bunch of really ugly ones over there. Their faces look like they're melting. Come on, you get to see them. Oh, really? Josiah begins following Yvonne and Thea, and Rue trails behind them. Yvonne leads them to a half-finished model with drooping skin and a malformed face. Look at it, it's disgusting. Someone made this? That's not the best one. The best one's over here. Thea pulls Josiah toward another nearby model, an abnormally tall, lanky male figure with long fingers and a neck that's twice as long as that of a normal human. His face is smooth and featureless, and so is his crotch. Oh, what the hell is he? God, he looks like a creep. Rue walks closer to the model, her eyes filled with wonder. I think it's supposed to be an elf. See, he has 6 fingers and Is he your type, Rue? He's tall, dark, and handsome. Yvonne and Thea bark into giggles, and Rue turns bright red. No, it's supposed to be a physical recreation of the anatomy. Oh, look at her, she's embarrassed, she can't even talk. It's not that, I just saw... Oh wait, there's another good one this way. Thea pulls Yvonne and Josiah in another direction. Somewhere a clock tolls 5 times. Wait, I had to go to an appointment with my mentor. As the 3 disappear among the hundreds of statuesque figures, you can still hear their voices. That's fine, we'll meet you here at 6 to go out. Alright. Rue turns around and begins jogging toward the entrance. You follow Rue to the faculty building, walk with her down the hall, and stop at a familiar door. This is Rue's office. Rue lifts her fist to knock, hesitates for a moment, and then softly raps on the door 3 times. Come in! Rue takes a deep breath, turns the knob, and steps inside the office. It's almost identical to how you remember it, though you notice that many of the books on the shelves are older than the ones that Rue had. An old man sits behind the desk, sorting through some papers. He has a ruddy complexion, a thick mustache, and salt and pepper hair. You recognize him as Master Bars. Ah, Miss Okazi, right on time. Have a seat. Rue nods and sits in the chair in front of the desk. Hello, Master Bars. It's good to see you again. I remember sitting in that chair. Likewise. So, it's been a week or so, and I'm supposed to ask how you have been adjusting to life on our esteemed campus. You pick up a hint of sarcasm in the way he says esteemed. It's been quite natty. I'm not used to being surrounded by so many people, to be honest. Yes. It's part of the Academy's goal to create a community of scholars. We're the enclave unto ourselves here. Now, I'm supposed to read you number 3's questions. Are you feeling at home in your accommodations? Do you feel bouts of homesickness? I'm feeling comfortable, yes. The rooms, the food, and the dormitories are nice. Of course, I miss my siblings in my own room, but it's not. I don't feel homesick. I'm actually feeling quite excited. I don't have much time to think about much else. Much else besides what? All my coursework. I've already started to dive into textbooks on tissue regeneration and general surgery. The lectures have been quite thought-provoking. Master Bar's mouth twitches slightly and he nods as with the rest. I'm glad to hear it. I had some concerns about you skipping some of the introductory courses, but it looks like you're already digging your teeth in. Oh yes, it's difficult, but it's exhilarating to see how everything weaves together. Well, I guess I'll skip the next question about academic challenges. Alright, the next one is, how are you adjusting to the social life on the campus? Do you feel that your classmates share interesting goals? Rue's radiant smile fades and her shoulders sag a little. I've made a few friends. Acquaintances. Things are going fine, I suppose. Master Bar sits down the paper he's been reading from and folds his hand on the desk. Miss Okazi, I'm sorry to have to say this, but you're a terrible liar. Rue looks down at her lap and shrugs. I know that. You don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to. I'm not pining to get wrapped up in the private dramas of young students still trying to find their place in the sea of strange faces. I went through that myself and I had to figure it out for myself. Rue raises her eyes to meet Bar's gaze and exhales through her nose. It's just that I don't know how to approach people and keep things. They just seem to fall apart, and I don't really know how to fix that. I don't think I'm particularly interesting. Ah, bullshit. Rue's eyes widen a little and her mouth hangs open slightly. Excuse me, sir? I said that's bullshit. I've read your exam answers, your admittance letters, and your recommendations. All of them paint the picture of a young woman who's full of insights about the world and humming with excitement. If the people you've met don't appreciate that, then you need to find a new circle of friends. Barrows jabs the air with his finger to punctuate the last point. Well, that's very flattering, sir, but I don't think everyone sees things the way you do. Boris leans forward slightly and rests himself on his elbows, then lowers his voice a little. I know a sizable portion of our student body is less interested in their studies than the latest fashions. That's fine. The institution needs their money, and most of them will drop out after only a decade without mastering the art. The ones who are left, however, are what make this place bearable. The people like you, whose minds are bent toward higher matters. They may be far and few between in your current classes, but they are there, Mr. Kazi. They're waiting for someone like you to make their acquaintance. You really believe that? Boris leans back and knocks on his desk with one knuckle. Without a doubt. As cantankerous and uncouth as I can be, I found that a few good friends make life worth living. I don't really know how to make friends. I got unlucky recently, but... Boris nods and steeples his fingers. Here's a short lesson in humanist studies. This is something I, let's say, developed when I was your age. In every raucous, lively group of people, there are outliers. The ones who don't shout or laugh, they stay near the periphery, feeling awkward and miserable. I was one of those. I was deadly terrified of making a fool of myself. So I tagged along and just simmered while everyone else had a grand time throwing up on each other. Rue giggles at the last part, and Boris' smile spreads. Every now and then, I thought about striking up a conversation with another fellow outlier. But there I always hesitated. I worried that they would see me as lonely, strange, or a dozen other things. If that's how you feel, then think about this. Every person, no matter how socially adept, no matter how attractive, secretly believes that they are unworthy of others' respect, company, or love. The cruel irony is, everyone believes that they're the only ones who feel this way. Once you get past that, you can stop worrying about how you appear. Focus on seeking out others who share your passions, interests, and obsessions. So you got the people who understand you. And the ones who will become your friends, your real friends, will recognize you. What do you mean by recognizing? Boris sighs and raises his eyes toward the ceiling. It's hard to explain. Suffice to say, we show people who really are in the small ways. Kindred spirits will see these, while others will not. You seem to have put a lot of thought into this. I'm a student in human nature. Call it a desperate attempt at persuading myself not to become a harmedic misanthrope. You're not a misanthrope. You're too patient and pathetic. Maybe. Either way, I advise taking 2, maybe 3 nights this month to go out. Head to a bar or private gathering of your choice. Consume just enough alcohol to feel like you're floating. But, Master Boris, there is a certain level of inebriation that's conducive to socializing, I found. You're telling me to get drunk? No. Slightly tipsy. There's a small but crucial difference. Mr. Boris, I'm not going to do that. No? Why not? Well, one, because it feels like cheating. I don't want to rely on alcohol for all of my friendships. And 2, I don't even like alcohol. Ah, well, I can respect that. It's not the best strategy, I'll admit. Rue laughs and covers her mouth. Can't believe you tried to talk me into going boozing. Boris stutters and throws up his hands helplessly. Maybe I've simply lost touch with the youth, but that's what I did when I was your age. That's how you develop a drinking problem. Well, it did take a few years to break that particular habit. Boris laughs and looks at his desk with a wistful smile. I would perhaps take my advice with a grain of salt. I haven't lived a life that I am eminently proud of. But sir, you're a faculty member. Surely you must be proud of that. Boris sighs heavily and looks around the office, his eyes running over the bookcases. You know, I would be rude if I hadn't spent 50 years of my life here. Soon I'll retire, and yes, I'll live for a few centuries, perhaps longer. But my brothers and sisters are already gone. My old friends have grown up and died without me. All their grandchildren barely know me. I'm a stranger to everyone outside this campus. And yes, I'll have obscene wealth. I'll have comforts, maybe even servants. The irony of spending so many years here is learning that there is more to life than material things. I was lucky enough to figure that out later than never, so I'll have a few people I can share eternity with. And Boris turns his gaze to Rue. His eyes are filled with melancholy. You strike me as a thoughtful, bright young lady who's got her mind set on one thing. Her studies. And by God, that's why they admitted you. But if you don't find a few people, mind you, just a few, to really share your time with, you'll graduate 30 years from now with your immortal body. And realize you have nothing waiting ahead of you. I see. Boris nods silently and leans forward to rest his chin on his fist. I don't mean to dampen your first week here at the musings of a tired, embittered old man, Miss Okazi. I just wish that someone, anyone, had opened my mind to the possibility that gaining immortality might not be all and all to one's life. It turns out that you actually have to live for it, for better or for worse. Rue gazes back at Boris and smiles sadly. I really appreciate it, sir. Truly. To be honest, I've always seen scholarship as a way to avoid having to live in the conventional sense. Talking to people, eating daily meals, ensuring my clothes are laundered on time. It's always seemed to be part of a rhythm that I just never quite learned. As soon as I find something new, something engaging to study, it all stops mattering in my mind because I can pretend that this is all that matters. I spend a lot of time in my own mind, and I know I can't do that forever, but it's so easy to do. Boris inhales and shuffles a few papers around. Do you ever get lonely? Rue opens her mouth, but hesitates. She bites her lower lip, trying to figure out how to respond. Yes, all the time actually. But when I'm immersed in my work, I forget for a while. I see. Well, as you aptly surmised, drinking every weekend to make friends certainly turned into a problem for me. Perhaps if you'll excuse the stupidity of the pun, instead of a drinking problem, you have a thinking problem. Maybe, but that's all I have. Being a good student here, all that requires thinking. All I'm saying is that there are many ways to escape the rough, unpleasant parts of living. Some people drink until things get softer. Some people escape into their own private realities. Some of the researchers here never leave their offices except for food and presentations. They're consumed by their studies, and that, I wouldn't call that a living. Rue nods and looks down at her lap. No, I think I've berated you enough. You're dismissed. But think about what I said.
I will, sir.
Good. You'll do just fine, I think. Just fine.
Thank you, sir.
Rue gets up, gathers her things, and heads out the door, waving to Master Boris before it shuts. She looks at the clock in the hallway, and can see that it's nearly 6. Rue takes a deep breath, then starts jogging down the hallway, her bag bouncing behind her as she pushes to open the doors to the faculty building. She crosses the campus and heads back to the Garden of Flesh, making it into the main chamber just as the clock strikes 6. She sighs, sits down on the same bench that Josiah had found earlier, and takes off her school bag. She catches her breath and crosses her legs and waits. 5 minutes pass. 10 minutes pass. Then half an hour. Then an hour. When the clock strikes 7, you're standing over Rue, who is bent over and covering her face with her hands. Tears leak between her fingers, and you can hear her softly sobbing. When you open your eyes again, you're sitting at a low table in a sunlit room. Scrolls hang from the walls, each one featuring illustrations from ancient manuscripts on immortality. A black tea kettle is sitting on the table, and across from you sits you. Damn, you do look like a delinquent. You're dressed the way you always did, jacket unbuttoned, your shirt untidy. You realize you must have looked like a slob. Here some papers get shuffled around, and you look down to find another pair of hands instead of yours. You recognize the delicate shape and long, thin fingers. They're like a penis. Ah, yeah, the music is muffled, because I'm in Rue's body. These are Rue's hands. Your gaze lifts, though not by your will, and you realize that you're not in control of this body. You're merely a passenger. You look at yourself from across the table and see that you're lost in thought, staring down at your cup of tea. What am I thinking about? As you try to remember, you hear another voice in your head.
He doesn't seem very enthusiastic. Am I already disappointing him? Can he sense my nervousness?
You raise your eyebrows as you recognize what you're hearing. These are Rue's thoughts.
Uzo?
You see Rue's voice jerk your doppelganger out of his thoughts.
How are you finding the academy?
It's big. It's kinda confusing to find my way around, but I'm getting the hang of it.
I see. What did Master Boris say? You need to establish your confidence and authority the moment you meet your people? But I don't have any authority. They made me a faculty member because I was good at research, not teaching.
Rue shifts in her seat. She shuffles around the documents in front of her as if buying time before saying something else. Rue's eyes glance up at your double. You see that he's glancing around the room.
Let me just go through the questions first, and I'll figure out how to present myself. What subject are you most interested in studying?
You see the other Uzo raise his eyes to the ceiling, thinking. His jaw shifts to the side as he does. Do I do that when I think? If you did, you never realized it.
He doesn't behave like the son of a noble. His posture and manner seem somewhat unpolished.
Artificial vessels. Yeah, that is what I chose at the beginning of the game. Ruse has regeneration, artificial vessels is Yeez. The middle one's Izaki.
I should show him I know a lot about that. That'll help establish authority and respect, I think. But if I just reel off a bunch of facts about it, it'll seem like I'm just bragging. I don't want to go too technical and confuse him. Ah, well, we have an excellent curricula for that.
A servant arrives to pour both of you tea, and you're left in silence as they fill your cups. Rue sips her tea slowly, but after a second you realize that she's only pretending to drink it.
What was it like when I first met my mentor? What was I worried or curious about? I remember that I was terrified of Master Barras, but I don't think Uzo's terrified of me. In fact, he seems a bit stern and scary. I don't think he smiled once.
Rue sits down her teacup and stares at your doppelganger, who's still drinking.
I had to do this right. If I can't be a passable mentor, then I can't be a real faculty member. They'll take me out the faculty roster, and I can't bear to have that. Not after this. How can I be a good tutor if I don't know how to handle him? I wish I knew what he was thinking.
You see the other Uzo lower his cup and lock eyes with Rue.
Oh damn, he definitely saw me staring at him.
Rue's gaze drops to a small piece of paper in her hands. She begins fiddling with it. The double turns his head and looks out the window, and Rue continues messing with this small sheet of paper.
What can I ask him that will engage him? From his records and admission materials, he seems to be interested in theoretical work. He mentions a number of fairly advanced mathematical concepts in his admission essay, but I'd rather know more about him. But you can't really ask someone what kind of person are you. You have to be crafty and indirect. It's about how they say things, not just what they say. Or am I thinking too hard about this? Maybe I should just say what feels natural, but then I might say something strange. I wish I could open up this Italica book and just look at the pages.
You watch Rue fold up the paper and unfold it, leaving crease across the grain. Then she carefully rubs the piece of paper along a straight line. You see her double look over and knit his brows together. Rue freezes up and begins to speak rapidly.
One of the interesting things I discovered when studying here is the paper loads problem. Have you heard of it?
No. What is it?
The idea is that when you fold a paper lotus, you'll never perfectly align the folds, and each fold will have a ripple effect on the next fold. In the end, one flaw can change the outcome of the entire lotus. If you know how, you can see, or at least recognize, a person by the flaws in their lotuses. Because those flaws reflect their individual soul as expressed through their physical form.
Rue's hands quickly fold the lotus, smoothing the creases and turning the paper in place. At the minute, a pristine paper flower rests on the table. You watch as the other Uzo picks it up and inspects the flower from different angles. For once, his face is curious rather than stern.
It looks like he piqued his interest. I haven't seen that face before.
It looks perfect.
But it's not. If you magnified your vision, you'd see the tiny imperfections. The more you magnify it, the bigger those flaws would seem.
Well, can anyone fold a perfect lotus?
What an astute question. That's the important question. For anyone to obtain perfection in any form, even in something as small as a paper lotus, they would need to align their body, mind, and soul with the principle of perfection. In that moment, they would become perfect, at least in a sense. Maybe you could attain that for a moment, but eventually you'd need to return to your normal, flawed state, like entropy. You see the other Uzo's face nod along slowly. I wonder if I should explain entropy. It's a complicated topic, but it's a relevant one, especially to the concept of immortality. I wonder if he's familiar with physiological entropy, not just mathematical. It would be nice to have someone to talk to about my work. But then again, do I want to make friends with my people?
Can I have a piece of that paper?
Oh, sure.
Rue hands your double a piece of paper, and he gazes at the designs dyed into it. He starts to fold it in half, and stops and takes out a small knife.
Does he know kirigami? I wouldn't have pegged him as a fan of handcrafts, and that knife doesn't look like a craft knife. It looks like the kind of raw knife a robber might use.
I think there can be a beauty in our flaws. That's what I chose.
That's what I chose at the beginning. A poetic notion, but fallacious one. There's nothing beautiful about flaws by nature. If they were beautiful, they wouldn't be flaws.
I don't think that's right. To my old master, a perfect teacher would be authoritative and professional. Those types of teachers make me nervous. If he came in there acting that way, I probably would have been intimidated. Instead, we're just sitting here talking like two normal people. That makes me feel a lot more comfortable with you being my mentor.
Like two normal people.
The other Uzo looks up and smiles embarrassedly at Rue.
He's as nervous as I am about this whole meeting. That's relief. I'm glad to hear that. I've never taken on students before, but this is not my usual. I'm not usually comfortable with teaching new people. Should I have admitted that? Maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
Rue watches her doppelganger slice into the paper for a while.
What's he doing? The patterns are similar to the lotus, but not exactly.
After a minute, Rue speaks again.
If you're trying to cut along the fold lines to circumvent the problem with inexact creases, it doesn't work. He's smiling. What's he smiling about?
You watch the other Uzo unfold the paper and reveal an intricate little snowflake.
Oh, it's...
Rue's body tenses and her eyes get wider. As she stares at the paper snowflake, you realize that the patterns of cuts are shifting on the paper. The paper square seems to grow larger and larger in Rue's field of vision, until it's the only thing you can see. The cuts on the paper begin to change shape, move and merge with one another like a kaleidoscope. In the black geometric holes in the paper, you see warped images of her face, like you're looking at broken shards of a mirror. Some are smiling, stern, melancholy, or angry, all shifting and merging into one another. Suddenly, the patterns of cuts in the paper lock into place, and you realize that they're the same pattern repeated in smaller and smaller iterations. Triangles stacked on top of triangles on top of triangles. The closer you look at the center, and the more triangle holes appear. It feels like looking into the bottomless pit. In the very heart of it all, you see your face again. It's looking back at you, and its lips are moving. Even though you can't hear the words, you can recognize them. I wouldn't lie to you. Not about this. Rue? Rue blinks, and suddenly you're back in her office, sitting across the table from her double.
Sorry, I was, lost in thought.
Rue looks down at her paper lotus and picks it up with her fingertips.
You can have this.
The other Uzo takes the lotus's palm and cradles it, looking at it from all angles again. Thank you, Master Kazi.
Oh, you can just call me Rue. I'm not a master quite yet.
When your doppelganger looks up from the lotus, Rue hurriedly looks down at the table. Have you read all these books? The other Uzo gestures vaguely at the shelves that line the walls.
Oh, yes, actually. Though I'm afraid they're not very impressive. In fact, they're rather dull and dry.
Rue giggles under her breath as she looks around.
Oh no, I'd devote my life to the boring books Mr. Tarasi warned me about.
Well, I guess I'm used to reading dull, dry books by now.
What does he mean? You should be excited. These are our first days at Its Academy. When I sat on the spot, I was vibrating in my seat from all the anticipation. Are you not excited about scholarship?
Your double's eyes go wide as he realizes what he'd said. No, I am. It's just, I guess I'm still dealing with the memory of my entrance exams. I had a lot of rote memorization to do, and I still feel like I don't have all of it, you know? The other Uzo taps his skull. And here.
Oh, well, that's what I'm here for. At any point during your studies, you can come here and I'll help you with anything you need.
You see your double let out a slight sigh. That's a relief, actually.
Did you have any, specific questions for me?
Yeah, actually. How do the courses here work exactly? I mean, I understand I got an anatomy course and a martial arts course and all the others, but when I looked at the catalog of courses, none of them seemed to have prerequisites listed.
Ah, so that's because Itson isn't like other academies. Here we
begins to explain Itson's theory about holistic learning and, pedagogy. I don't think I said that right. I'll switch that later. Reading out the key points as if she were reading from a page. The other Uzo nods along, trying to take notes.
He seems unsure of himself. Not just about his first days here, but about his abilities. I know I was intimidated during my first few days, but everyone here around me seemed like they took to Itson like ducks to water. He seems different. I guess in the sense that he feels entitled to be here.
The grandfather clock tolls twice, signaling that the meeting is drawn to close. I mean, darn, I hate to get going. I think my next class is anatomy. Rue glances down at the paper with your schedule on it.
Martial arts, actually. Make sure to do your stretches. You don't want to get hurt.
Will do. See you later, Professor Akazi.
Professor Akazi. It's still strange to hear it from someone else's mouth.
The other Uzo gathers up his books and satchel, stands up, and pulls open the door. As he steps out into the hall and closes the door behind him, he nods to Rue. The door shuts and Rue is left alone in her office. She immediately sighs and her head slumps forward.
That wasn't as bad as I thought, but still exhausting.
She spreads out her legs beneath the desk and pours herself some more tea.
I don't think Master Barros would be very pleased with my performance, but I think I can work with Uzo. He's not a very outgoing, exuberant type, but maybe that's for the best. I don't think I could handle that.
She looks down at the intricate paper snowflake in her hand.
I can't get over it. Maybe his mind just works differently from others. Chaos theory is not something most students grasp intuitively. Wasn't there something in his letter of recommendation? It should be here somewhere.
Rue sorts through some files and pulls out a long piece of paper. A dossier. It has her name at the top, your age, blood type, height, and a list of your credentials. Near the bottom you see that a letter has been pinned to the dossier.
To the esteemed faculty of the Memorial Itsan Academy, today I write to you with a letter of recommendation from my apprentice, Uzo Zini.
We'll skips down a few lines, perhaps the pleasantries and the introductions.
In lieu of catalog of admirable traits and outstanding merits, I wish to relate a story about my apprentice. During one of my lessons, I delivered to Uzo a lecture on the writings of Roku Zhugi, a relatively obscure scholar who meditated on the nature of immortality and eternity. In the lesson, I touched upon Roku's method of meditation, which involved stretching his perceptions to near infinite extremes. In one instance, he would enhance his hearing in visions that his own blood flow would sound like the rushing of a river, and the surface of a wooden table would appear to be a landscape of canyons and plateaus. The intent of this exercise, Roku says, was to realize that the infinite cannot be perceived or understood when thought of solely human terms. One must see the infinite as a dust mote sees a house, or as a raindrop sees an ocean. Several evenings after the lesson, I was going to my bedchambers when I saw a candle lit in my library. I discovered Uzo on the floor of the room, sketching something on a large piece of paper. He had drawn a complete diagram of the blood vessels in the human heart. Excitedly, he began pointing out the patterns in the blood vessels. Each child branch was identical to its parent branch, only smaller. The entire system was one pattern, repeated in smaller and smaller iterations, he explained. He turned the page and showed me an incredibly detailed sketch of the veins in the leaf. The pattern is the same in leaves, he said, and in the trees that produce them.
Rui sets the letter back down on her desk and looks at the second teacup and napkin on the table, the one where the Uzo had been sitting.
Rokushuki. I only know what he's infamous for his work on obscure mathematics and driving scholars mad, I think.
Rue walks over to one of her bookshelves and pulls out a tome wrapped in gray bookcloth. She opens it and scans the table of contents until she finds the entry Gi, Rokuji, Shaju. She turns to the listed page and finds a short paragraph introducing a long block of text, an excerpt from one of Roku's essays.
It says here, Gi's poetic, allegorical prose is notoriously difficult to navigate for even seasoned scholars. Yep, I was right about that. Those who manage to blend the nuances of his work claim to feel unmoored from the illusory reality of material things, and suspended in a world of eternal concepts. Rue shivers a little, and you hear her laugh to herself. I think I can teach him. He has a mind like mine.
Rue replaces the book on the shelf, and picks up her cup and sits down behind her desk. She sips from the cup and then blows on it to cool it down. Her eyes are fixed on an empty space where the other Uzo had sat.
I wonder what goes on inside his mind.
You open your eyes and find yourself in the frigid stone hallway. You recognize the masonry from the Itsan Academy, but there's something strange about it. The shadows seem to jitter and shift, and you feel a deep-seated sense of dread as you look at the door a few paces ahead. You can hear voices on the other side, but you can't make them out.
Uzo?
You spin around and find Rue standing there. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see
you. Do you remember everything? Rue nods slowly. Her mouth is slightly open, and she has a pained expression.
I died. Years ago, here at Itsan. My research, it killed everyone.
No, that's not true.
And I died as a giant, disgusting mass of flesh. Oh god, it's like waking up from a nightmare, but it's All of it happened, didn't it?
You take a step closer to her and put your hand on your arm. You died, but the infection, the campus, that's not your fault.
But
It's not. It's not your fault. Tears well up in Rue's eyes, and she clenches them shut, then drops her chin to her chest.
It's all for nothing, wasn't it? It all came to nothing.
You wrap your arms around Rue and silently stare down the hallway. She cries against your shoulder, but she doesn't hug you back.
They're burning people, burning them alive. I remember everyone. They were terrified of me because I wasn't myself.
After a minute or so, she separates herself from you and wipes her eyes. Her chest bucks a little as she stifles a sob, then her eyes fixes on you.
How did you get out? The campus, I mean. How did you survive?
I found a way off campus. I snuck out and went underground to one of the, underground cities, Lazula.
But you had your arm grabbed. It should have spread.
I got treated early, and I think they managed to keep it from, I don't know, getting out of control. I'm resistant to the infection.
How long has it been since it all happened? I can't tell.
About 5 years. Rue covers her face with her hands.
Oh God. I remember being in that room, the classroom, trying to hide from other things. I was afraid they were hunting me. It felt like I was in that building for decades. Time didn't seem real anymore. I could remember bits and pieces, but everything felt like a dream inside a dream.
Rue looks up at you.
I'm so glad you're...
Her face changes as she gazes at you. She seems to notice the hallway, the benches, and the door.
I remember you. I remember the last time I saw you.
Rue, listen. Rue steps back, clenches her fist, and holds them by her sides.
I remember what happened here. I remember everything.
As Rue shouts, a door opens and closes at the end of the hallway behind her. You start to hear footsteps echoing down the hallway. Rue stops and turns her head to look. Walking down the hallway is another Rue, dressed just the same as the one in front of you. She passes by the Rue you've been talking to and sits down on the bench in front of the door. The Rue in front of you watches her go with a look of surprise.
Is that...
We're still in the memory, but now we're both observers. You watch the Rue on the bench fidget a little and smooth out her pants. She seems nervous, even more so than normal. The Rue in front of you takes a few steps forward until she's standing beside you.
I remember what happens next.
The door's going to open and they're going to call me in. You grab Rue's arm and walk in front of her, trying to catch her gaze with yours. Rue, I know nothing can make it alright, but you have to believe.
Shut up! Don't touch me!
Rue wrenches her arm out of her grip and backs up again.
You lied to me. You ruined everything. I can't stand the sight of you. I know what happens next. I know how this ends, and now I have to watch it happen again.
The conduct hearing was only the beginning. It was only the start. What happens after? You have to see what I did. Rue recoils a little from your voice. You feel yourself start to breathe heavily.
What did you do?
You have to know the whole story. That way when I say I'm sorry, you'll know what I'm apologizing for. The door in front of the benches opens and you hear a voice. Professor Akazi, we're ready for you. The other Rue rises from the bench, inhales deeply and nods. She walks through the doorway and disappears as the door shuts behind her. They're in front of you, dressed away from you, toward the door. She grabs the knob and looks back at you. Come on. She opens the door and steps inside. You follow. And unfortunately I have to stop it for here today. If you're enjoying this video, please leave a like, comment your things so far, and subscribe. If you want to watch more of this visual novel, please take a look at the playlist down below. If you want to watch more visual novels, please check my channel. Anyways, thank you, and take care.